Good afternoon and welcome to the webinar Cybersecurity in Indian Railways. This webinar is being organized jointly by Rail EduTech Private Limited and Silas Cybersecurity Limited of Israel. Rail EduTech Private Limited is registered with Government of India as a startup to work as training company in railway domain. I am Ajay Singh, founder director of Rail EduTech Private Limited. Silas is a global leader of cybersecurity in railway domain, having 18 plus solution patents, providing rail operators with specialized cybersecurity to ensure service availability and safety. The participants in the webinar are the very senior officers working for Indian Railways in government sector as well as private sector. I welcome all participants. I request you to please use chat box for any question or query. This will be addressed after panel discussion is held. A panel of eminent railway professionals has been invited for the discussion on the subject and consists of 5 speakers. I like to give short introduction of all these speakers. Mr. Arun Saxena, he is one of the panelists, very senior panelist, a railway engineering professional with about 40 years experience in design, installation, maintenance and operation of signaling and train control and telecom systems on Indian Railway. He has been responsible for development and approval of designs, system architecture of software, embedded systems, signal plans for safety, critical and secure systems, along with networked IT application for diagnostics, management and control are some of the areas. He retired as a GM NCR and now presently he is advisor to the Minister of Railway for framing of the policies. Mr. Anshul Gupta is the second panelist. He is 1984 batch IRSSC officer, very dynamic, bright star professional of Indian Railways, having wide experience in signaling and telecom. He is one of the designer and developer of modern signaling and safety systems, conceptualizer of software embedded train-borne software control system, quality system assurers for signaling and telecom products, high-end fiber-based technologies for voice and data communications. He has been DRM, PED Signal, and now presently posted as a General Manager, North Frontier Railway, headquartered at Guwahati. Mr. Ravi Prakash Karcharela, a senior management professional with more than 38 years of experience in the field of automation, railway signaling, telecommunications, and automatic fare collection systems. He was associated with large multinational companies like Alstom, Siemens, Invensys, Rail and Thales as business unit head, country director by establishing these entities in India and ensuring their business growth. He has been instrumental in introducing new technologies such as electronic interlocking, ETCS in Indian Railways and DTG CBTC in metro applications. Currently, Mr. Ravi Prakash is working as an advisor and consultant to K-Ride, a joint venture of Government of Karnataka and Ministry of Railways to deploy Bangalore Suburban Rail Project. I welcome to Mr. Ravi Prakash. Mr. Sandeep Joshi. Mr. Sandeep Joshi is having more than 35 years of rich experience in mobility domain and was responsible for setting up India's largest engineering center and mobility footprint for Alstom in India. He was Commercial Director for India and South Asia and as Managing Director for Signaling in Alstom. Mr. Sandeep Joshi is now advisor to the Cyrus Limited. Mr. Yanu Malet. Mr. Yanu is a lead cybersecurity architect at Silas. Provides consulting services to railway companies, vendors, and projects focusing on solving practical problems and designing the right architecture to keep the clients on safe tracks. Prior to Silas, Yanu served as a lead software engineer for the Cyber R&D division of the Israel Defense Forces Allied Technologies Unit. With other 20 years of experience in software engineering, communication systems, analysis, and management of complex cybersecurity, software and hardware projects. With the introduction of this, all the eminent panelists, I am handing over to Mr. Sandeep Joshi.
Thank you and good afternoon to everybody, and welcome to this cyber security seminar. I will now like to request Yaniv to start his presentation, which will create our base for the further discussion. Yaniv, over to you.
Thank you, Sandeep. Let me start by sharing my screen. Can you see it, Sandeep? Ajay?
Yes,
Yes, we can see
start. Hello, everybody. Good morning. It's a real pleasure to be with you all and talking with such an interesting panel in India. We will have 20-25 minutes talking about the next topics. We will start talking about the reality of why we need cybersecurity business in the railway industries. I will give a few examples of cyber attacks vectors on the railway systems, and then we will talk about regulations, technical standards, and I will finish with some important takeaways that I think that each one of you in the audience should take from this webinar before we will go over to the panel and open questions. So first of all, I think the reason we are talking here is because railway switched in the last decades from a very important industry to a very much more modern and digitized industries. The trains today are much more smarter than they were before. It's still a beautiful piece of mechanics, but today we have a lot of digital systems for navigation, for comfort, and for the other diagnostics of what's going on board. So we switch also from giving basic services to our passengers. So and today we want them to have the best experience that they can have and the fastest experience that they can have. So we want them to have real-time updates on their cell phones. We want them to have apps to connect to where is the train, when is my train, can I pay with my Apple phone, can I pay with my Android card? And this is the kind of things that are really going faster in the industry. And also the core of the technologies is in the end of modernization. I mean, signaling technology and train TMS, train management system that we have today, they are enabling higher speeds, more trains, more passenger. It's safer and it's more reliable. So the main technologies that we are seeing today, like CBTC, ARTMS, PTC, TCAS, they are richer in connectivity. We have a lot of
cybersecurity login to मैंने कर दिया.
And we have also wireless technologies, and this is great because this is taking the railway industry in the modern world. But when we are looking at that from my point of view, which is the cybersecurity point of view, or even when looking at that from an attacker in the cyber dimensions, all of these new technologies, they are providing many opportunities for attack, for hacking. This is what we call the attack surface in the cybersecurity terminology. The future technologies that we will see in the next 10 years, they will be even more advanced with a lot of opportunities for the train operators, but also enlarging the attack surface. And I'm talking about FRMCS. I don't know if you're familiar with that, which is the replacement of GSMR in Europe and maybe worldwide of a 5G cellular technology. We are seeing today's preventing maintenance analytics that are connecting to the rolling stocks and giving real-time data to prevent failures. We are seeing asset management with augmented reality or virtual reality, which are connected to the other assets in the networks. And we are also seeing the beginning of robots and drones for maintenance and operations that will be on tracks. And all of this kind of new technology, they will be great for us as the railway industry. They will be great for our passengers and our customers, but there will be also maybe an opportunity for any attacker that want to make damage to one of the operators. So having said that, let's maybe give a look at what can happen if an attacker will manage to obtain a successful attack on one of the railway networks he wants to target. And we can see on this slide a range of consequences of the impact from a possible cyber attack. Let's start from the left. I mean, loss of confidence is something that it's maybe a business concern, okay, but I guess that each one of us, if we are working with operators, the business is a concern, and we don't want our passengers to think that because there were even a minor cyber attack or cybersecurity event, we don't want them to switch to another mode of transport. We don't want them to lose confidence in the train, okay? So that's maybe the easiest of the problem here. Loss of sensitive data is something that is maybe more related to big IT and business companies, but I will give you a small example of what can happen if someone managed to just grab some sensitive data from a train network, because sensitive data can be also the firmware of one of the signaling devices on tracks, which is most of the time not a public piece of code. Okay, this is not a public software from the vendors, from the main vendors of signaling. And maybe a small attack will be just someone grabbing piece of firmware, but this attacker will now have an advantage, a piece of intelligence to perform additional attacks, maybe on the same train network and maybe on additional networks. And then the next impacts are maybe the one we are much more concerned with. First of all will be the decrease of availability. One of the most common attack in the cyber, in the hacking world will be what we call DOS, denial of service. Denial of service, when an hacker is performing such an attack, will result in decrease of availability. That means trains going late, trains that are stopped, and that is something that could cause client satisfaction, that can cause fines. There is some places in the world where the governments will give fines with a lot of money to the train operators if the trains are late and not on the timetables. And this is something that is really harming for the business. And the last two points here, I think, are the one that we want to avoid at any cost: damage to the infrastructure and damage to people. Okay, damage to infrastructure can be something that happen because of the cyber attack by itself. Okay, it can be the target of the hacker, like making one piece of equipment unavailable. Okay, I'm talking about, let's say, a smart interlocking system that is going down from the network because the attacker decided that, and then it will take hours to take that back online. But that can be also the result of a train event, okay, a collision, a derailment that will damage the infrastructure. And I don't want to talk about fatalities, because that is the really the thing that we don't want to see. And safety events, of course, this is the higher consequence that we can imagine. And the good thing is that the safety culture of the railway industries will protect our passengers in most of the events. But we can talk about scenarios where even the safety case can be compromised. And now that I just gave a few minutes about what can be the impact, I will take you to the news and show you press screenshots from the last years, and we are seeing some attacks on the railway industry. It is something that is increasing. You can open any cybersecurity reports from threat intelligence companies and see that there are an increase in any critical infrastructure attack. Okay, that can be energy, sector, that can be a water sector, that can be transport sector. And we are seeing attacks on trains. We are seeing attacks on train networks. Okay, I think just last month there was in Denmark stop for a few hours of DNB traffic because one of their third-party suppliers had suffered a cyber attack, and they had to close the traffic because of that. It wasn't an attack on them even, but that is something that impacted the work of the operator. And I want to say a last word, because we can see here what happened this year in Belarus, okay, in the beginning of the war, the conflict between Russia and Ukraine. And we saw a group of hackers that stopped the Belarus train national company traffic. And it was a tactical support to avoid the Russian reinforcement of troops. And this is something that can be really concerning. I can say that in any place in the world where we are seeing, let's say, a concerning geopolitical context, okay, and I'm based in Israel, so I know all about serious geopolitical context, but I know that also in India, there are some troubles at the borders with your neighbors, and I can assure that attacks on critical infrastructure will be a weapon for the next years in any international conflicts. And we saw that here in Belarus, and it was on a train, okay, and we saw that maybe in the past with some cyber attacks on nuclear plants in Iran, and this is a weapon in the new field of the war. And if someone wants to harm his neighbor without even shooting one fire from a gun or sending a plane, he can use an attack on critical infrastructure. And trains in most of the world and railways can be considered as critical infrastructure. So now I want to switch from this introduction to a little bit of technical slides regarding what kind of attacks can we see on a railway network. I will use for this explanation this basic diagram. Okay, this is just an example of how we can look at a modern railway architecture. Okay, it's just a simple network, but if I was an attacker and if I was looking at this kind of things, the first thing that I will want to understand is where can I attack? What will be my entry point? Okay, to go inside the network and start my attack. That's what we call attack vector. And I think I can highlight here some things that will jump to the eyes of the first attacker, even if he's not familiar with the railway technologies. Okay, let's say that first thing we have today, wireless technologies connecting the rolling stocks, okay, the onboard equipment, with the wayside with the OCC. And this is something that is wireless. It's something that is vulnerable to any kind of attack, okay? And this is something that will be evaluated by any hacker. We have field elements, okay? A lot of technical devices on the tracks. And what is important in a railway network is that we are talking about hundreds or even thousands of kilometers of network. Some of them are over wireless a physical layer. Some of them are over fiber channels. Some of them are even maybe on older cabling. But we will have a lot of equipment on the in the field that are not protected by any physical security. This is an opportunity for any hacker that wants to attack a railway network. This is something that we will try to understand how to hack. The wireless a technology that will connect to the train, and that can be CBTC, that can be ERTMS, that can be any of those and worldwide technologies. They have from one point connection to the rolling stock, and from the other point they are inside the network already. So this is a place that an attacker will want to check for sure. Another two examples: the backbone. Okay, some places this is called the transport backbone. Some places we call it the one network. In most of the railway networks, it's connecting all of the assets in all of the network. This is the base of the network. And this is a place that if I was an attacker, I will start to check, okay? And maybe I will start by there to exploit the whole network. And then we have the data center or the operation center, where we will find all of the servers and the management of all of these systems. And this is interesting because at this point, the attacker will find regular servers. That means Linux servers, Windows servers, and this is the kind of equipment that any attacker in cyber is much more familiar with. So for him, it will be maybe easier to find a way to jump on a management server, because he have some attacks on Windows, some attacks on Linux servers, and he doesn't need to understand what is a field balise or what is the access point of CBTC technology, because he just need to hack the Windows server. For him, it will be even easier. And the last point on this slide will be that today we want to deliver a lot of services for the operator, for the maintenance, and also for the passengers. So we have a lot of connections and connectivity from our railway systems. For example, passenger information systems, what in the past were just simple signs in the station, they are today LCD screens, big screens. They are today also broadcast in the public announcement automatically. They are today broadcast to your phone. You can find on Google Maps when will be the next train at the station. And that means that this got a connectivity inside, okay, with the railway systems, but also a connectivity outside to the internet. And having said that, today, and especially after the COVID crisis, the last 2 or 3 years that we had in the world, we can say that there is no single network of any railway operator that doesn't have a remote access for support, okay? Today, it is much more common to have one of the vendors of the signaling equipment, of the SCADA equipment, that will require remote access for support. And today it's happening. And once this is happening, all of this architecture have some opening, some entrance from the outside world. So we can protect that as we can, but this is an opening. And when we are talking about cyber attacks, an attacker, an hacker will find any opening, any door to open, and we'll start by there. It will open the door and then start to understand what will be the next doors. I want not to give you, we don't have that much of time, but I want to give you 3 small examples of possible attacks and vectors that we are concerned about in any railway network. So first thing will be a continuity from what I just said about remote support. So today we have remote support, and you know, maybe one of your vendors got hacked, okay? One of the technicians, one of the engineers got his laptop hacked, and someone is using his credential to rightly enter your network, okay? Using the VPN because he's got his credentials, maybe he stole them, maybe he do a phishing attack, and it can enter the network from the outside. But also, we will have technicians that are going around our facilities. And a rail operator is not a nuclear plant, is not a defense facility. So you don't have the same level of security there, and technicians or engineers that are coming to doing updates or coming to doing some maintenance work, they are sometimes coming with their laptop, and this laptop can be already hacked or attacked, and with an access from a remote hacker or just a ransomware inside that can now go into our network. This is what we call insider threat from the maintenance. On the same topic, another insider threat that we most of the time aren't looking at that, because we are thinking always about the hacker from this remote country, this hostile country that is working at his headquarters, but just someone making a mistake inside your network, or someone that is not making a mistake, but let's say has been requested to insert a simple USB stick, okay, or a simple disk inside one of the workstations. And when we have access to OCC, most of the workstations in the OCC, they have access to all the network. That can be because you don't have any segmentation at all, but that also most of the time is because we want the OCC to have visibility or to have access to all the systems, because this is the heart of our operations. And people that are thinking that, okay, I don't have remote support at all, I have an air gap, or what I think is an air gap. But inside our facilities or train stations, or inside the depot, we have a lot of suppliers, we have a lot of maintenance staff, okay? And people can do a mistake or can do a criminal mistake in entering one tool that can be entering what it can in the network. You don't need that some hacker will have remote connection to your network to make damage, okay? Just think about this little USB stick with a small ransomware that will hack the whole Windows, I don't know, 2000 something workstation that are just the HMI from one of the interlocking, okay? And now you don't have the HMI at all. So that will make a lot of damage and a lot of time for you to recover, because those are old workstation and it's complicated to recover for such an attack. A last example for an attack, it's something maybe much more sophisticated, and this is really the high end of the attacks. But when I was talking before about ICS or critical infrastructure attacks as a political or as a tactical weapon from countries, this is the kind of attacks I'm talking about. Someone found a way inside your network, and what is he understands after a lot of work is that he can access the zone controller. Okay, this example is about CBTC, but we can take this example to any same technology like TCAS or like ETCS, okay? And all of them have some flaws because they was designed for operation and for safety and not for security. And I will tell a bit about that in a minute, but all of them have the same flaws. But the flaws is that if someone has an access, and the access can be from remote or from one of the example I just gave you, because someone from the inside gave him the initial access, he can now understand how to manipulate the movement authority messages that are sent to the train. And maybe for some of you that are not familiar with that, movement authority are the kind of messages that are telling the train the speed load for the next portion, the next section of his travel, the speed, and what he should be able to continue from for the next 10 kilometers, you can go at 200 kilometers per hour. And when we have a driver on board, it's maybe something that can surprise him if someone manipulates the message But when we are talking about the future of automatic or grade of automation in the trains, that we will find trains with no drivers, that can be a totally a fatal attack. And I'm talking about something that is not science fiction. It just requires the right amount of time for the attacker to achieve. I want to tell you that, and that's from my previous experience, attackers working for intelligence agencies or armies or countries, they have a lot of resources, they have a lot of time, and what they need is just the time, and they're working against you, against us. They will just need the time to learn what is the system, how to do the best damage that they can, and they will wait for the time to operate. So those were just some examples. I can talk hours about technical issues and attack vectors, but I want to take us to our last topic, and it's talking about what should we do and what we can do to prevent those kinds of attacks, because I will tell you, those attacks will happen, okay? And I think that anyone in the cybersecurity industry today, and no matter if it's on transports, on IT, on financials, on medical, okay? We just saw this year 2 hospitals in France that were totally closed, shut down, because the hospital got a ransomware inside, okay? And they just closed their doors. No patients were allowed for a few days. It took days to recover. So anyone in the cybersecurity industry in any field will tell you that an attack will arrive. You just need to be prepared about how to prevent the attack, and more important, how to understand that you're under attack to be able to respond, because you can be hacked. It's happening and it will happen, but you need to be able to get the right response to mitigate the attack and to mitigate the impact and to recover, because there are some business over the world that were under attack and they didn't recover because they lost all of their data. So in railway, we are not talking maybe about data, but we need to recover operation as fast as possible, because if we are not doing that, trains are not running. So I want to talk a bit about what is so special in railway. Why are we talking, and why there are companies as CISOs that are dealing with railway cybersecurity? Why is that so special that we need people getting experience in this field specifically? So first thing is that a railway network and a railway environment is pretty special, okay? We have a large distribution of the assets, okay? And I told before about the long geographically distribution. We can have the OCC at some point, and 200 kilometers later, we'll find additional technical rules with servers and network assets. We will have a lot of communication channels in the network, okay? That can be wired, that can be wireless, that can be inside the rolling stock by itself. We will have a lot of interfaces, okay? And it's maybe much more related to urban transport, but sometimes you will have an infrastructure with an airport because you have a station of the train inside the airport. You will have roads, bridges, and such. And something very important for cybersecurity experts is that some of the assets are moving, okay? And I will just give you an example why it's important. Let's say that you are really good in cybersecurity in your company, and you have a security operations center and people that are monitoring everything. And now they found that there is a computer with a problem. Let's say a vulnerability because it's running an old software. And the operator is like, okay, we need to update that right now because before it's too late. Where is the computer? Oh, it's in the rolling stock, it's moving. You need to wait before it's come back to the depot before you can even touch it. And that is something that people in cybersecurity needs to understand. You need to understand what are the restrictions or what is the way of doing things in the railway in order to give the right cybersecurity requirements. Second point is that the technologies in the railway are pretty specific. Okay, we are talking about a multi-vendor environment. There is never one vendor for one equipment. Okay, you will find a lot of vendors inside your network. They are using proprietary protocols, which is something good for security, but it's something complicated to managing the security. Most of the technologies are designed for safety and not for security. And I will give a point about that in 2 minutes. And the last thing is about what is very special in railway. It's also around the safety, but we have safety level. And because of that, we cannot do things that we will have done in a regular network. Let's say we cannot do software updates because, and I guess all of you are familiar with the time that your laptop is telling you, hey, Windows wants to run an update, and I will now restart your computer. This is not something that you can do, okay, in a railway environment. This is not something that you can do in the workstation at the OCC. So those kind of things that are pretty common, okay, in any other industry. Okay, so you find a vulnerability in Windows. Okay, so let's reboot all of the computers or all of the workers. That will be okay. We will install the patch. We cannot do that in a railway network, and that is something that managers need to understand to be able to give the right level of security. The other thing is that when we are talking about networking protocols, about networking specificities, okay, we need to have the right level of cybersecurity expertise. So the IT environment is a well-known area. I mean, for years of awareness, knowledge, a lot of people that are familiar with IT, secure design, IT, cybersecurity. This is something that we can see every day. A lot of companies that are doing security solutions. OT security, okay, it's a little bit narrowed field. I mean, it is changing for the last years also. It is more digital, it's more open. So you can find today electricity plant that will have remote SCADA connected to the cloud because the country wants to have a full visibility. That's okay. But there are a few people with the right experience to manage OT, okay, because OT got a different type of network protocols, different standards, okay, and you need to understand what is the right solution to give the OT the right level of security as you will give to the IT environment. And the last one is that there is another category. We are calling that at Silos railway OT or rail OT, but this one is really specific, okay? Each one of the railway companies, technology, sorry, and the vendors, they all have their unique protocols. They won't use the same one. And people that are from the IT or the OT field, and that happens to me when I start working at Silos, I didn't know about these protocols. This is totally new. So if it's new for anyone from the outside, it's maybe new for the attacker, but he will learn that. But if you are buying a solution, okay, if you are trying to design the right mitigation to the security threats, you need them to be adapted to those protocols. The behavior of the network is not the same as any one of the other type of environments, because as I just said to you before, if I want to do an update on the train, I need to understand when the train will get back. And the train, they have maintenance windows. You know when the train will come back for maintenance. You cannot touch the train before. And it's pretty complicated. And also patching, as I just told you, a bit complicated. So we need to understand that OT is not IT, and that railway OT is not the regular OT. That is something that is required for the people that will manage the cybersecurity. That is something for the people that you are using to consult you. And it's also the same way for the products that you will buy, okay? Maybe a regular firewall for a regular data center is not the one that you will want to use on a rolling stock because it's not adapted. And the last point about technology. I think this is a safe thing to say, but railway is a safe industry. I mean, there is a long time culture of safety features, testing, standards. I think that the RAMS methodology is one of the most adapted for security needs. And there is no any vendor that is not dealing with safety as required. And I think there is not that much of accidents around this industry. But when we are talking about cybersecurity, sometimes we need to understand that safety is in fact opening the door for cybersecurity gaps. I want to give you some examples. Encryption. When you are talking about with anyone who is designing today a secure system, it will tell you, okay, I will use encryption. I have TLS, I have AES, I will use what is the best for anyone not to break my communication. But when we are talking about safety protocols, okay, and I'm talking about signaling, interlocking, and those kinds of equipment, and also SCADA, no one is using encryption because when it's safety related, people prefers that the communication will be open and not encrypted. So this is a balance between safety and security. Fail safes, okay? One of the best things that you will have from the safety point of view in a train is that emergency braking. If something is happening, if the train lost connection to the operation center, if the train you remember before I told you about manipulate messages, but let's say the onboard computers, they receive a wrong message, they can use the emergency brake. So that won't kill anyone. By the way, it's not true because emergency braking is not that nice for someone who is standing in a train, but that will not kill anyone. But this is the kind of thing that hackers just love to do. So because maybe the hacker, it doesn't need you to have trains colliding. It just wants to stop the movement of the trains, okay? If someone will tomorrow stop for just 10 minutes, the traffic of the metro in Paris, France, okay? Think about the chaos at 8 a.m. in the morning with everybody commuting from their home to their work. If all of the metro is stopped, just stop, because the hacker didn't have to do that much of work. It just have to make the fail-safe start. And the last point that I want to use is, maybe I thought about it before, it's software and firmware updates. You cannot do that in railway environments. One of the reasons are the SEAL, the safety zones, safety requirements that you will find in railway equipment. And in the security, we will call that safety level and security levels. Those are not the same, but when you have SEAL 4 equipment, okay, for signaling, no one can come and do a software update, even if Microsoft just told that there is a major vulnerability found. No one can do that because it's not allowed. You cannot do a change to SEAL 4 equipment unless you do all the certification again. So these are the kind of things that you need to understand when you think that you are safe. You are safe. The equipment is safe, but it's not secure. And when it's secure, maybe it's not safe. So this is two things that we need to understand together. We need to keep the railway technology with the right level of safety, but we also need to take care of the security. And for that, governments all over the world are starting increasing the regulation. I think the last one that we saw this year about the new directive in Europe, which is called NIS 2 NIS directive, the new one. And this one requires from train operators, okay, and other public safety related operators to report to the government about some events, to manage the security rightly, to use security zones, to use security solutions. We also saw this last October in the US a new directive from TSA, which is the Transport Safety Administration, which is just around that, about managing segmentation of critical network and railway network, and also managing the detection of events and how do you report that. In India, I know that there is a national cybersecurity strategy, and we have seen various regulations from the government of India and the railway board. National agencies like the NCIIPC, the National Critical Infrastructure Protection Center, and the CERT of India, they are working together to safeguard critical infrastructure, and one of them is railways. And we will just talk about that in a minute with our speakers panel. One of the topics that the organization that are dealing with that is India Railways, and a part of the signaling manual and the telecom manual, we can find a lot of requirement already for railway cybersecurity. For example, the protection of the interface with the electronic interlocking system, the use of intrusion detection systems, the need to protect from intrusion. And this is something that any professional needs to be aware of and start working in this way. I can tell you that all around the world, we are working now, there is a typo here, but we are working with two major standards. One of them is the IEC 62443. This is the main cybersecurity standard for ICS, for critical infrastructure, okay? This is defining how to do risk assessment, risk management, and the right architecture for the environment. This one is not specifically for railways, but today we have the European Senelec TS. There is missing a 5 here. 5701. 5701, which is an adaptation of the IEC 62443 and the RAMS together to give a specific railway adapted cybersecurity framework. This one was issued last year in 2021, and it is really, really adapted to manage the cybersecurity operations in a railway environment. And today, people, as we speak, are in Lyon, France, working on the new standard of IEC, which is called 63452. It's still not a standard, it's still what we call a project group. And this one will use the 62443 and TS 5701, and that one will be an international standard for cybersecurities for railway. I think that maybe it will take a year or two before we see this one, but this will be a major milestone about how we protect our industry. Today, I can tell you for sure that if you start from the beginning, you should start use those two, okay, the IEC 62443 and TS 5701, that are really, really needs to be the methodology that you use to work. And I think the last slide will be some takeaways. There is no importance here about the order, but I will start from left to right because nothing here is more important than the other. So I think the first thing I want to tell you is that if you didn't have the right work, the right design, I must show you that your rail system are not secure. Okay, to have a secure network, you need to actively work on that. I will recommend any one of us, as you saw that there is an increase in the regulation. The best thing for you to do if you are not yet working on cybersecurity is not wait. Start having a plan today. Where do you need to start? What is the most important thing? Maybe you just start and protect on the signaling system. You know what? Start with that, but you need to have a plan because at some points in the next 2 years, even in India, I'm sure that there will be some active regulation making you following mandatory requirements, and you should start today. Railway technologies, they are specials, they are not the regular IT, okay? And you need to have the right solution, the right products for railway technologies. On the same point, OT cybersecurity cannot be done by the people that didn't learn the right thing to do. So you want to have people working on OT cybersecurity with the right expertise that knows how to handle OT environments. One myth that we maybe touched a bit before is that at some point in the last years, most of the railway operators, they were thinking that they are in an air gate, okay? And I talk with a lot of customers and they told me, I don't need cybersecurity. I work in an air gate. And when we go to the network and look at the diagrams, look at all of the connection, they understand that there is no air gate anymore. And as I told you before, the last 2 years or 3 years of COVID increased this statement. And a last point, I'm working for a cybersecurity company and we have a product that we want to sell, but I want to tell you something. Cybersecurity is not only security products. It's not only the best firewalls you can get, the best IDS you can get, and the best solution for monitoring. Cybersecurity is also making the right plans, preparing the right procedures, having the right people on board, okay, the right consultants, and it's not only buying the first firewall that you will see in a security conference. So you need to start with a plan as soon as possible if you are not there yet. And I think from my side, this is the end of the presentation. I want to send back the leading to Sandeep. And I think the next phase is the panel of experts, right, Sandeep? You need to switch your mute, sorry. Sandeep, you're on mute. Sandeep, you're on mute. Maybe Ajay?
Yeah, Sandeep?
I think Sandeep, yeah, Sandeep is.
Now it's okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Annie, for informative presentation. Now we are a little stretched for time, so without taking much time, I think we should open the panel discussion now. And I once again welcome all the eminent panelists for taking part into this webinar. And I would like to first go to Mr. Anu Saxena ji. Sir, there are a few questions which I will be throwing at you for the people to understand what is Indian Railway strategy towards the cybersecurity. So the first question is, I will combine two questions so that it will be easy. What is your overall view on cybersecurity in Indian Railways? And along with that, when it comes to regulations like national cybersecurity regulations, where does India stand vis-a-vis the regulations which are being used globally? Over to you, sir.
Good afternoon, all of you. First of all, let me be very grateful to Mr. Ajay Singh of Rail EduTech, who has taken a very, very vital subject today And this subject, the kind of participation which is visible, it itself indicates its importance. I'm extremely also thankful to the, and was quite interestingly watching Mr. Yaniv, who has brought out a very comprehensive outline of what is the issue and what can be done. I will be delighted to have Mr. Anshul Gupta and Mr. Ravi Prakash as the fellow panelists along with Sandeep Joshi. Thank you so much for the question. First of all, let me tell you that the issue of cybersecurity, Railway was quite alert right from the year 2007 or 2006, when the this organization in India gave us a questionnaire that what is the status of this kind of a breach which can take place into the Indian railway system. And this questionnaire led to a formation of some kind of a working group, which gave its complete information security plan to the Indian Railways, and which was way back in 2007. At that time, the technology was largely of a different kind, and it was not having so much of access to the outside world. Most of the systems and networks are quite closed and captive, and largely they were not, no one was allowed to enter into the system. But as we progressed, the technology progressed from the year 2007 onwards. This group, based on this group's recommendation, a very comprehensive guideline was issued, and those guidelines were updated time and again based on the directions issued by the MATI, which is the organization which is called CERTIN. They keep on giving us direction. But today what has happened is that whatever that group had done the work, that work was exclusively for organizations, especially for those applications which were largely of nature of, from the angle of passenger information, passenger reservation, freight operation, and the internal systems of our financial and accounting processes, HR management, training, and material management. Those were networks which were country-wide networks. Some were some were local networks in the railway. But all these networks were definitely networks which had access to the various officials of the system of the Indian Railway network. There were no access given to outside bodies. But the way a disgusted person can behave and use and can trouble the system is now very, very open and is now clear, which was very evident in one of the recent attacks in the AIMS, where we found that certain emails and certain passwords and certain access points were breached. So I believe that there is a protocol there for the purpose of organization. But this particular area which Mr. Yaniv has touched today was largely, we thought we are quite protected, but we are not. And that is what I would like to mention to the entire group here, that we need to work on this area, especially the area of TS 50701, which is a railway specific thing for products and systems which are software embedded largely. But everywhere there is an interface to the system, interface to the outside world, interface to the other networks. And in spite of unidirectional gateways, we find that the system could be breached. And therefore, there's a lot of need to work on this. Now, coming specifically to the situation, what we have in India is, we are having a very severe shortage of certifying bodies and accredited bodies. These bodies do not exist in this country. And there are certain small companies and groups who are taking up jobs of audit and evaluation of the status of a particular organization or a particular system. And that particular area, I think there is a shortfall. We need to work on that.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And the next question is, are the CISOs responsible for IT and OT, both the networks? And which networks are considered as safety critical or core networks which needs to be secured? Because as we go to the more and more advanced modern communication-based technologies, so also the area of attention increases.
Yeah. As I mentioned that we had issued a comprehensive policy in the year 2007, but at the very same time, we also appointed CISOs for each railway for each production unit and for each of the training centers where we have got systems available all over. But these CISOs have been largely, I will say, in a very bureaucratic manner, behaving like that. And the real work which has to be done is, I think, missing today. That will have to be focused on. Although the Railway Board has got a periodical exercise on updating them, following up on the various incidents which have been reported. But it is not taken the logical conclusion in each case. And that is why I think much more has to be done on the subject. Because when I checked up with recently with the Cyber C&IS Directorate, which is the coordinating directorate, that is computation directorate in the board, I think they hardly have any attention to this cybersecurity issue on a regular basis. It could be once in 3 months or once in 6 months kind of an initiative, which is also driven by the NCSC, which drives us. And we have got workshops and training programs on cybersecurity, but that is the end of it. Coming to specifics of systems, I would not like to name them because that itself will be a breach of security. But definitely, there are systems which are called which are linked to the public for passenger reservation, freight information, your passenger information on the trains. Then we have got systems now emerging in the form of electrical systems for SCADA, where we have got systems for the emerging technology which is called TCAS. Although we have got a very proprietary and very I'll say robust communication interface to the network, but still, as Yaniv mentioned, that even that can be at times breached, and therefore I think these are the broadly area. But many networks are available, and today, as was mentioned, that COVID has really opened up everything. And if you look at a simple electronic interlocking, now we are a simple electronic interlocking, even a locomotive, there's a data getting dumped into some server somewhere in the country, somewhere in the world. And that interface itself is a sensitive interface, which needs to be protected substantially. I strongly believe that first step should be to create an organizational setup at the highest level, to give that leadership to the system, and then deploy teams maybe along with TRIS or maybe Railtel. They can work together with the expert bodies, and then they can drive the system in a manner that first of all you have to find out the status, do the audit of the system, and then suggest mitigation methods for different possible breaches. Thank you.
Correct. Thank you, sir. And this also throws up one more question: is that as we are seeing in the mass transit system, the initiative has started about putting the specifications into the certain system contracts where the certain standards or regulations are being mentioned. Now, when we come to the critical tenders like Vande Bharat or even this Kavach and such systems, I think some steps also need to be taken into the mainline systems, particularly for the signaling in the beginning, as it is mentioned, that yes, we are adequately protected as per the standards available globally.
I think that will have to sink into the system, because you see that this particular standards have been issued recently, about a year or two back. And we in the field of signaling somehow have been very strongly depending on closed systems. But now the systems are getting opened up, and this radio interface, which is now really opening up the problem, and the access being given to the remote maintenance and the external maintenance terminals. These are potential points. So that these are becoming part of the specifications now. The RDSO specifications, especially for TCAS, includes certain protective measures and the design philosophies for that. But I think this will have to be independently assessed by a body, so that we can clearly highlight what is wrong with the system, what can go wrong with the system.
True. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And thank you for your time. Now I will go to our next panelist, Mr. Anshul Gupta. Sir, geographically, you manage the most crucial zone of Indian Railways, being in Northeast. So what are your views on the cybersecurity? The first question. And do Indian Railway needs protection from cyber threats constraints. So give your views on these 2 points that will help the audience. Sir, you are on mute.
Thank you. I think I have now got, you're getting my voice now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, we can hear you now.
So thank you for giving this opportunity. I think big thanks goes to Mr. Ajay Singh for organizing this cyber seminar, I should say, because it's a talk on cyber security. And I think a very good presentation which have been given by Mr. Yanev. And again, my greetings to Mr. Arun Saxena for introducing the subject in such a beautiful way. And incidentally, I was also the member of first committee of 2007, which framed this information security parameters or what we should do for the protection of the information and various information systems. As regarding the specific question which have been asked, geopolitically, Northeast Frontier Railway is very crucial and very sensitive. This is a gateway, you can say, to Southeast Asia. And when Honorable PM talks of $5 trillion US dollar economy, this area is going to play a major role. And that's why a lot of focus is coming to this area. And so does the focus of hackers and the enemies to the state or to the country. As you know that NF Railway is surrounded by 5 countries. So we have international borders quite large and long, which is porous at various points. And there have been many attempts on various state infrastructure, this IT infrastructure on various state levels by these countries. I should not name those countries. And that's why this adoption of stringent cybersecurity regulations is a need of the hour. For railways, because the expansion of railways to border areas is taking place at a very fast pace, this becomes very, very important. Extremely important because we are going to have a large number of tunnels, bridges, maybe highest, I think the height of a pier bridge which will come up. This will be in Manipur, again in NF Railway. Few of the longest tunnels in rail tunnels which will also come in, and most of these assets are going to be managed through a remote access. So that's why the role of cyber security is very, very important as far as NF Railway is concerned. And apart from these assets which we are maintaining, because the modernization is going on at a fast pace, a lot of IT-based systems are also getting, you can say, adopted on this railway, including TCAS, and even the CTC have been going ahead with the adoption of the CTC, because many of these areas are very inhospitable terrain, and we cannot put railway staff at each and every station. That's why the CTC, provision of CTC is extremely important. And but with the CTC, again comes the challenge of the cyber space where all the threats are lingering around. And that's why this cyber security, the proper protocols, what railway should adopt. And moreover, many of the indigenous vendors, they are also developing and providing these systems. So this becomes very, very important for us. Now these tunnels, because we have longer, very, very long tunnels, and they're very susceptible also. So we are providing a lot of automation inside the tunnel. And if, because these alerts, whether it's a methane gas level or any other threat is there, whether it's an environmental threat or any physical threat is there, trains are going to stop. And whenever any cyber you can say, attack is there or hacker is there, as Mr. Yaniv has also mentioned, their first priority is to stop the whale traffic, because these trains, they connect to the sensitive and strategic areas. So that is our priority has to be how to, I think, stop such threats, and that's why cybersecurity becomes very, very important. As I told you, that we are connecting many of these strategic areas, strategic, you can say, posts, where the movement of these trains or fleet, which is very, very important. And that's why this strategic data, which we keep very secret, is also very, very crucial. And there have been sighting of drones from the enemy territories into our, you can say, the various spaces, whether it's a railway station or nearby airport space or army locations. That's why the new threat, which I feel, which is coming up, where the drone-based hacking will take place. So now drone-based hacking is a new thing which will come up. This is not limited to only cyberspace. It's a limited space where even a confined space where wireless is working is going on. The drone can set up at the top of, say, locomotive or a station and hack your system. So that is new kind of thing. So we may say that we are a closed loop system, but ultimately we get into this new threat, and all these things now we have to look into that what type of new regulations or new safety precautions or IT security precautions we have to take. Now, even the OT sphere also, being the strategic areas, strategic movement taking place, this again becomes very, very, very important. So from IT security and OT security, adoption of the cyber security principles and regulations very, very important for us.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir, for this oversight over there about the specific territories. So this is where again the question comes up now, how do we implement these regulations into at least such critical areas where it is very, very important as far as the time is concerned. So how these regulations can impact operations, or secondly, how these regulations have to be implemented into the existing operating OTs.
Actually, these when we talk of say IT security and OT security, we have to phase it out, because they are certain very critical, very strategic OTs and very critical and sophisticated ITs. So the layers we have to develop. When we talk of SOCs, the present generation or the older generations, now we have to take care of the new threats which we are going to face, or we are facing also. So when AIMS health software, it gets say compromised. So you have seen this thing. So similarly, if similar the software or OT infrastructure gets compromised, which is a pan-India level, say Indian Railways, say a system, which may come up in future, and that too from a single location. So we have to think and adopt this thing in a layered fashion. The criticality of these things is one thing is very, very critical, for which we have to form response teams also at various levels. Awareness is very, very important, and the access control is also very, very important, that how we can stop this access to this intrusion, whether it's say from you can say ground level or a space or any level it is coming. So this is very important, that the intrusion, we take care of the awareness, then the intrusion protection, and then the adoption of this thing at various levels. So these are the things which the new SOC we have to think and then provide at various levels. Then even the data analytics, because now a lot of things we are adopting this data analytics, whether it's passenger data or maintenance data or even the safety hazards which we have faced. Their data also a lot of analytics. And these are all, you can say, cloud-based or remote applications. So the access system is again the public network, or even if it's a private network. Hacking this thing is very important. So these data breaches, somehow at the second level, these data breaches we have to take care, for which again we don't have any policy as on date on Indian Railways. And as I think statistics said that in last few years, more than 52% of the organizations in India, they have faced these data breaches, and including railway organizations, many of these things. So data breach is so common, but with the Digital Data Protection Act coming up, there is a cost also to this. That's why these we have to adopt such protocols to stop these breaches and maybe generate alerts. So that's how we have to go ahead from the very, you can say, the super critical to the, you can say, the medium level or low level applications.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the overview and the requirement. Now, I would like to ask few questions to Ravi Prakash. Hello, Ravi.
Yes, hello, Sandeep.
Yeah.
Hello,
Ravi,
good to see all of you.
Yeah.
Sorry, in between I had connectivity shut down, so we had to get back through mobile data. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Sandeep.
Okay, Ravi. So, as you are working towards the specification side or the requirement management side, so what are the new technologies like, say, CBTC, ETCS, or even the new train technologies for Vande Bharat and such, which are being used in Indian Railways, and where also the legacy systems are working together? So, what is your view on the cybersecurity in those areas?
Yep. Well, good afternoon, everyone, again. So I would like to give a very brief understanding of what we are looking at, the safety as well as the security. Once we say the system is safe, my overall design is still for in a railway signaling or any other system. So we are telling that, yes, it is a company or the supplier is taking care of the safety. Similarly, now the security is something which is also becoming one of the important requirements. So the slight difference is one is freedom from having any unacceptable risk, that is your safety. Wherever you get the freedom, that is going to be safe. It is a state of being safe. Whereas when you say secure, you are talking about the protection from any harm that can happen to an individual or to the process or to the asset. So we look at three major areas in the railway environment. One is the people who could be the passengers or as well as the operators' personnel. The processes that are going to operate the train, whether it is the IT processes or the OT processes. And similarly, the last one is your critical infrastructure, which consists of assets like rolling stock, the signaling equipment. So everything, including the building, the lifts and everything. So when we say that we have a railway system today, we always had this false sense of security, saying that, yes, we are a closed system, we are a standalone system, we don't have any problems because we are not connected to the outside world. This was always there. The first time when the technologies were like your data processing came in as an IT system in railway, maybe for the ticketing or for their internal processes, then that was the first lesson for them to get exposed. Then similarly, when the metros application started coming in, then we had the OCCs, and then we had those other areas where you are getting exposed to the outside world. So this is how people started getting, the taste of getting exposed to an outer environment, and because of that, whatever risks that are involved. and in terms of having data being hacked or your personal security is compromised. So when we are now talking in the current situation where now railway is also trying to move into the modern system. For example, in Mumbai suburban, they want to go into CBTC. And the project that we are working on, the Bangalore Suburban Rail project, is again going into CBTC. So CBTC, the minute you say that it is a CBTC system, it is getting more and more exposed to the outside environment because you have the mobile radio towers, you have various operation control center systems. So all these things are getting exposed. So naturally, as a customer or as a client, now, of course, having done all these projects from the other side as a supplier, now I am sitting on this side of the table as a customer, as a client, creating the specifications with my consultants, general consultants. So we are telling that cyber requirements or cyber security requirements become one of the key requirements because we are running the trains adjacent to the Indian Railway train. We are using the same land and we are using the similar systems. But of course, we still have our own alignment and we go adjacent to the Indian Railway line. But yes, we are going to use similar systems. And there are so many cases where there is multimodal integration happening. So the people keep moving from one area into other area. Coming to the areas where there could be even some sort of interaction is that we may even think of using the common card. It is now anyway talked about the one nation, one card, or at least in a city like Bangalore, we are talking of one card which can be used in metros and suburban rail as well as the main line. So when you are using your systems across, so you are having a bigger chance of, picking up some malware and then putting it into the other system. So it becomes imperative that everyone, not just the suburban rail project or the metro rail project, now everyone has to move forward in creating these cyber security requirements. So this is the way forward for us. So whether we are starting with the tenders now or whether we are starting with the drafting of the specifications for a suburban rail system in Bangalore or in Mumbai or any other city in India, we are now looking forward to creating more and more such cyber requirements, which become a precursor to the safety. Now, safety has no meaning if you don't have the security. So unless you have a cyber security embedded into your systems, into your products and solution, manufacturing, your field requirements everywhere, you are not going to provide that sense of safety to your passenger, to your process, and to your assets.
Thank you, Ravi. So what I can understand is that this clearly indicates that the specifications which are being formed for say suburban systems or even for the closed loop systems are looking into the cyber security regulations, the standards what are available in India or what are standards available internationally. We are going to take care that yes, the system will definitely indicate that these standards are to be adhered to or to be incorporated in a way which is suitable to our IR requirements.
True. Actually, if you are looking at the earlier days, we were more involved in the safety standards, particularly the EN standards. We were always talking about EN 50, 126, 127, 128. Beyond that, we never moved forward. But now we are again talking about the cyber security standards. The cyber security standards, basically, which were incorporated in the industrial control systems, whether it is a water industry or whether it is aerospace or any other industry. These standards are already available even in India. For example, we keep talking a lot to the aviation people, the Boeing. They all already in this particular implementation of cybersecurity standards. So definitely, even in India, the standard like IEC 62443 and the technical spec of EN, that is 50701, which is today not exactly a standard. It is gradually moving towards it. And one fine day, we are very sure it will become an EN standard. So as of today, it is only a TS. That is why it is mentioned as a TS 50701. And these standards, whichever are there overseas, they are already being incorporated. We are not far off. See, when we are talking about the EN standards, I remember way back in 2000 and 2001, these standards were already there in Europe. And by the time they came to India, we were, almost 10 years behind them. Whereas now, in the present scenario, when it comes to the cybersecurity standards, India is not far behind. We are as close as possible to the European countries and the European rail systems or the cybersecurity systems. So you are very right, Sandeep, when we said that these international standards in toto can be applied on the Indian Railway. Yes, definitely there has to be a little bit of tweaking done for this to make it suitable for Indian Railway application. But I would personally say that majority of the requirements, whether it is a risk assessment, risk evaluation, and you are going to talk about the mitigation. So all these things will come into play, and they have to be done as close as possible to the international standard. So better we do that in the beginning stage itself, because we are just in the beginning now as far as modernization of Indian Railway is concerned. So in metros, most of the metros are already talking about that. Even if there is a very closed loop system, they are also exposed to the outside environment. And with Wi-Fi on board coming very soon, with LTEs and 4Gs coming in, definitely we are looking at a situation in the next couple of years, these standards become almost mandatory for us. So we may need to take those standards as they are and try to incorporate them in our products and solutions and ensure that we are cyber ready.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you. Can I go once again to Mr. Saxena ji, sir? Sir, are you online? Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Sir, one last question of this panel discussion session. I just wanted to ask you about what do you expect, or what does the Indian Railway or the customer expects from the industry, from the OEMs or the system providers for this prevention of cybersecurity attacks, or what do you expect from the industry which can be done together so that we can form a right roadmap or right solution for our future projects or in this specific challenging time?
I think that's a very good question. I would say that first of all, not only the industry, the Indian different organizations within the country should sensitize the people in the railway sector, or maybe the entire industry sector, because this is the subject which is given the least attention, and I think people do not really want to go into that. Yeah. Having said that, I think the most important aspect would be to organize workshops, training sessions by the industry. That can I think now today there's a very powerful media on the online. You can have it, so it is much easier to do it, and then transfer these specific training modules to the training centers of different organizations, so that because you cannot teach everybody, and once this is done, second step is our standards and the organization and the OEMs. They will have to really work on the specifications and have a relook from the angle of making them robust enough for such intrusion and such safety interventions. Now, coming to one more area which I think is linked not with the product, it is basically with the basic other application which we have, where the other standard apply, which is the ISO 27001 and 27002. That particular area also is important, and that audit is very effectively done by CRIS, especially for PRS, that is Passenger Reservation System, and the FOIS. So these two systems are very, very critical to us, because we cannot afford to have a PRS collapse in this country, and the same thing applies to the FOIS collapse. So the CS is the CISO of Chris is very closely watching each and every incident, and that they take action to control it. There is a monitoring mechanism there, and that kind of a situation, and or I will say the ecosystem will have to be created in every railway for the purpose of these applications, and in all the industry and the RDSO for the purpose of all the technical developments which are being taken place.
Okay. Yeah, well noted, sir. And I think this has to be a combined effort. It cannot be driven from one end. That is very sure. That is very sure, because the technology is going ahead so fast. It's not like before that technology is staying for 3 years and then we can see some minor changes. Now we see the change of technology every fortnight nowadays.
Actually, it has to be embedded in the mindset of people. This is a critical area. This is a crucial area. At every stage, you should focus on this. And it is today you see the basic hygiene, the internet ethics, the basic cyber hygiene is not there. It's just not there. People don't care. So we will, in fact, if you remember that we had a concept called you consider the operator, the signaling operator, as an idiot, and then design the system. The very same thing should apply to this also. That you consider everybody as an intruder. Everybody is an intruder, and then design the system accordingly.
True. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you so
much. With this, I thank all the panelists. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your insights, what you have given us.
I would request I would request Ajay Singh to just request everyone to switch on their videos and have one snapshot, the screenshot.
Sure. Definitely. And before we do that, sir, after doing that, I request Ajay to open the question and answer sessions for everybody. Thank you once again, and let's take a nice snap. Ajay, please.
Nice to see my good friend, Mr. Kochak.
I request all of you to switch on your video, please. Ajay, thank you.
Thank you.
Answer session, please. Mr. Ajay, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yeah.
Once again, I thank you to all panelists and all the participants, which is quite a large number. Now this session is open for the questions. We can take 3 questions if anyone from the audience is willing to have the questions. Anyone from the audience willing to have the question? Which should be answered by the panelist.
Yes. Good afternoon. Mr. Arunji, I would suggest that you organize a hackathon for 24 hours ethical to find out what are the weak spots in our system in the Indian Railway.
Arunji? Arun sir?
Yes. Definitely, Mr. Kochak, I think we have taken note of that. We can work on it. And if we have some time, come over and we can have a strategy to roll it out.
We can have 2 more questions.
And I have one question. This is Pradeep from UK.
Yeah, Pradeep, please introduce yourself for a minute.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm just to ask a couple of questions which actually related to the presentation of ENF, because I am working as a security expert for the ETCS on board, apart from working on the ETCS track site at the same time. So the first question has been answered by Mr. Saxena about inclusion of 27001. The second question is, which I'm trying to ensure, is that we have a safety compliance in terms of the ERA CCS TSI subset 91. We do not have any security compliances in terms of the CCS TSIs, but we have a lot of issues in connection with subset 26, subset 40, subset 36. in connection with the communication between RBC and the AVC system, between the bellies and the AVC system. How are we incorporating those security factors into our system, into our security features to comply with 62443? Of course, you're working on 62443.2, and partly 4, not 1, to a great extent. And what are the steps that you are going ahead to achieve those? I think Yanif might give me some answer on that.
Yes.
I'm not familiar with each one of the subset directly, but I think if I understand your question is that we already have a lot of equipment installed that have some interfaces. Some of them are with the balises, some of with the wireless equipment, and maybe we cannot change things that are already installed. And also we need to think about the next the next steps for the future releases. And I think that the answer here is that we don't need to have one, as the American we call silver bullet. Okay, we don't need, we won't find for each one of the systems that will manage the railway network, we won't find one piece of equipment or one piece of requirement that will help you mitigate a threat on one of the interfaces. This should be a number, a compilation of some of multiple mitigations. So if I'm taking, for example, current interfaces, wireless interfaces, I think the 62443 approach regarding zones and conduits, I think this is the way for us to look at that and to say, okay, if I know that I have one of the interfaces that I cannot be sure that there is no vulnerability, like, for example, something wireless, or for example, maybe someone can put some rogue ballast. Okay, this is a scenario that is not impossible. Okay, having hundreds of kilometers of tracks, and you cannot have security officers on all the tracks, but maybe someone can prepare a rogue ballast and put that on tracks with some, I don't know, some Raspberry Pi or something, and use the public technical specification to put that and communicate with one of the trains. So this is something that is possible. And I think that we need to look at that with the zones and conduits approach and say that, okay, let's first map what are our weaknesses, what are our weak spots, okay, and try to build around that the relevant measures. And that can be the fact that, okay, we need the train to communicate with the RBC, and we need the onboard system to communicate with the ballast. Okay, so now let's take around them another perimeter. It's not one perimeter, because, okay, so maybe we can assume that this connection is less secure than the other part of the environments on board on the signaling system. And we need to use multiple measures that can be something that will filter the communication after this interface. That can be monitoring systems, okay, that will detect anomalies. Maybe not detect anomalies, but monitoring solution that will be able to read the protocol of communication, to read the actual protocol, and understand if one of the fields, okay, of the message field of the for the ballast, it's called telegram, if I'm not mistaken. One of the telegram fields maybe was tempered. Maybe it's not relevant. Maybe there is a ballast just before a curve, and it's not possible that the ballast maybe send a message with go on at this speed, because this is not possible. So those kinds of intelligent systems can be put around the firewalls and segregation of networks. But I think the effort here should be a compilation of multiple measures. Segregations, which is the first step after zone and conduits, monitoring, okay, to understand what is going on, having other specific solutions, but again, I'm not, don't think we have the time to talk about each one of the subsets, but for the example of rogue balances, I would like I can tell about asset management. I want to know with what balances did each one of the trains talk in the middle of this journey. So having a product or a solution that will give you asset management to know what is going on the trucks, who is talking with who, okay? And if we set security zones as 62443, let's understand if some one of the devices is not enforcing the zones. Maybe there is a new asset that is talking to this zone. So I cannot stop the communication because this interface is open, but I want to know who is talking to the zone, to the secure zone, or outside the secure zone, and what are they saying? Is it legal? Is it correct, legit what they're saying?
Okay, thank you.
So if there is no question, we can, because the time is already 15 minutes over the time limit. Should we close it?
Ajay, I have a question, if we are not too outstretched. In consideration to the brownfield environment of rail networks, since when we will be moving on with this cybersecurity strategy, we will be adding a lot of software codes or hardware devices into the existing signaling systems or the information systems. So does it hamper the normal communication cycle times between the systems in any way? Maybe slow it down a bit. How are we going to take care of that? Because we have a definite refresh rate in terms of various systems receiving the information. How to means beyond that, the information will not remain validated.
Is your question being asked with some specific person or it is general?
It's general. Anybody who wants to care. Yeah.
Sir Arunji, if you can help.
Just can you repeat the question?
Yes, sir. My question was that in the existing rail projects, if we move on with the cybersecurity, implementing the cybersecurity, we will need a lot of firewalls in between the networks. We will have monitoring SEM systems. So there are some normal processing times for each of the piece of equipment. For example, the interlocking controllers or the wayside ATP controllers. So adding this new hardware into the system, will it hamper the normal processing cycle? Will it make it longer because you have a new stage of equipment in between your normal communication loop?
You might have noticed that Anshul mentioned about certain critical applications first. Now, obviously, latency is a big issue in every application, and we have designed our systems in that manner. But putting firewalls left and right and hardware left and right is not desirable. It has to be a holistic review of the entire design and the standard and the specification, and then you work out with an optimum system so that your transit times or latency is not affected, and the overall functional requirements are not disturbed at all. So ultimately, you need a function to be discharged, whether it is an operational functional or a safety function. It has to be discharged. Therefore, you just do not put anything as a patchwork. You have to have a holistic review of the design of that particular system and then work on it. This is what I believe in, and I think that could be there could be better ways of doing it, but a specification upgrade and optimizing the design is very important. We don't just put add-on systems without thinking about it. Even if we augment our interlocking, we'll first of all look at the interfaces and the power requirements. Unless you augment them, you don't really launch that. All of us are signal engineers, and we have done this in the past. Thank you. I think Anshul can support.
Sir, anything to be added?
So, I think what Saxena Sab has told is exactly, because adding any security layer or encryption, latency is a big problem, but we cannot add simply for the sake that this is going to stop so-and-so cybersecurity. In fact, NTRO has already come out with a detailed description and how the cybersecurity threat can be. So Army is already using it. And when they use it, it doesn't add to anything, because ultimately the functionalities should be there. So that's why whenever any hardware or software has to be added, due precautions and the protocols, algorithms are developed accordingly.
I may add another sentence to this. Actually, most of the systems that are legacy based, they will still need a bit of maybe a sort of a unidirectional gateways or something to protect these things. But as we progress, as the systems are developed and as they go through the evolution, what happens is these become the cybersecurity requirements become integral part of the design. So we say that cyber secure by design. So once you are creating those designs in your products, maybe the next generation of your electronic interlocking or your RBCs and all that will come with those things embedded into that. So there won't be any additional power supply requirement or additional security layer to be provided. From the industry point of view, I have already come across these sort of approach done by some of them. Thank you.
So with this question, I take the liberty of ending this webinar. And once again, I thank you to all the panelists and the participants who have been so actively participated in the 2-hour seminar and listened all the dialogues very patiently. As suggested by Arun Saxena ji, we would be certainly organizing some training programs for this, and we would like to take this project ahead, as this is of national importance, and railways already it is a critical infrastructure for the national critical infrastructure. So in collaboration with CISOs, we would like to take it ahead. And I'm really thankful to the CISOs team for giving us this opportunity, making them their time for this audience, and for us, making the people aware about this cyber security part. Sir, thank you very much. We'll meet soon. Again, we will announce for that. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Everyone.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.